We know it's been a few weeks since Bunker Office Hours, a weekly live show brought to you by team at Bunker Labs, a national network of veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs dedicated to helping the military connected community start and grow their own businesses. I'm your host, Iron Mike Stedman, today, joined by my co-host, Amy Morrison, and our special guest, Gabe. What's going on, Gabe?
Hey, how's it going?
We've been having a little technical difficulty, but we're pushing through, y'all. Y'all know how it is. It's like the Marine Corps.
I think it
like,
came in just in time. I heard you say, how's it going? And I was like, okay, this is me.
Perfect. So before we jump into our topic today about being a self-starter, I'm going to pass it over to Amy to talk about what's going on in the market.
Cool. Thank you. So this week we got a couple applications open. So CEO Circle applications are now open to all veteran and military spouse founders and executives of stable post-revenue companies. And you can learn more about that at bunkerlabs.org/CEO-circle. And then we also have applications open for another 100th anniversary USAA pitch competition. This one's in Charlotte. Those applications are open now, so you can check that out. And this is the last one. So we are on our road to the finals. This is the last event. So get your applications in now for your chance to pitch at Charlotte. And then if you win Charlotte, you get entered into the finals in San Antonio for... that's I think $100,000, is it? You'd think I would know that by now. Let me look
a substantial amount of money if you win.
Yeah, first place in the finals is $100,000. So get on that because this is the last one, y'all. So apply now. Even if you don't think you got a chance, just apply.
Well, first of all, I want to shout out everybody tuning in right now. I'm seeing the numbers on live go up. Go ahead and drop in the chat where you're dialing in from. And the name of your business. It's like, again, one of the reasons we do this platform is to be able to close the distance between, the bunker community and those of you spread out all over across the country. What's up, Jason? Shout out to Jason and Josh. Josh always checking in, so we appreciate you. Amy, I know I jumped in there, might have cut you off. Is there anything else that we missed?
I think that's it. I'm hoping Gabe can get his internet working because I'd like to talk to him about the I'd like you to talk to him anyway about the USAA pitch competition because he was part of that process. But yeah, there's always lots of stuff going on. I think Breaking Barriers Workshop is also, applications are always open for that. So we could talk about that too.
Awesome. Well, just so y'all know, we're supposed to have Gabe on. Gabe is down in Austin, but with all the people flooding from Silicon Valley down in Austin, they've overloaded the servers. So his Wi-Fi might be going in and out, but we're still pushing through. So let's see if you can hear us. Gabe, you good?
Oh,
there's a little bit of a delay. Nope.
Maybe.
Well, the theme we're supposed to be talking today is about how to be a self-starter, because a lot of founders out there, they're like, okay, I want to start this business. I got this great idea, but you assume you need this like elite MBA or you need to have all these resources. But at the end of the day, right, like I feel like a lot of times as veterans, and I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, Misty Fox from the Institute of Veteran and Military Families. In the military, we were taught basically how to go and start stuff from scratch, right? Like nobody really tells you how. We had this saying called like message to Garcia, which essentially is just kind of like figure it out. And so a lot of entrepreneurship is that. It really comes down to being able to figure it out. So I'm hoping Gabe is going to be able to chop it up a little bit more about that. Gabe, can you hear us now? You're good?
Might be a delay. Oh, no, we can't hear him.
It ain't working. Radio's not working. We can't hear you, Gabe. While we're waiting to see if we can get Gabe connected, go ahead and if you got any questions or anything for us in the chat, go ahead and drop it in. And I'm going to continue this conversation on being a self-starter, right? So, again, a lot of times it comes
that, Mike.
Oh, there you go.
I think we got it. Yeah. I hear the cat.
All right. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Oh.
I can't hear you.
Fun
wait,
time.
there we go. I got you.
Yay.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Great. I'm back.
Don't move.
Well, I can leave, but you know, I'm not touching it. Okay, hi guys. I'm Gabe Cavazos. I'm a CEO and founder of Rex. We are building a crash and theft response system for motorcycles and power sports vehicles. Think like OnStar, but for the cool kids. I also, along the way, I've had some previous success in entrepreneurship. I'm one of the owners of the Creek in the Cave in Austin, Texas, a comedy club. I was a comedian in a past life, and I consider myself an autodidact, which means I'm really good at teaching myself things. I think that this is one of the most important skills that you can have as an entrepreneur, as a human being, period. For most Americans, like education ends after college. I think that I'm a lifelong learner. I went to one semester of college. I taught myself how to code. I taught myself how to play guitar. I taught myself how to work with hardware. I taught myself using like a few core principles. And then as I was doing these things, I found that I read a book. I read a book called How to Learn, or it's called The First 20 Hours, How to Learn Anything Fast by Josh Kaufman. And that book absolutely changed my life. I was already teaching myself things, but it really gave me a formula to start taking that skill and apply it to other industries and start learning more and more. And as someone that's really hungry for knowledge, it was really helpful to create a system to be able to learn what I needed to. And coming into entrepreneurship, that was imperative, especially in those cash strapped days where every dollar and where that goes is very important. Being able to do everything yourself is very time consuming, and B, very, very important. So the time that you spend learning something means so much more. So the first few hours should be spent on research. And then the most important thing that I think that people fail when they're trying to teach themselves things is because I hear it all the time. How'd you get so good at teaching yourself things? I can't sit in front of a computer and learn. It's a huge misnomer. Most of it is not sitting in front of the computer and learning. It's not watching YouTube videos. It's not reading a book. It's getting out there and doing the skill and applying that skill, even when you're very bad at it. I think that I actually tried to. It's a very short book, short read. I revisited it yesterday so I could have some talking points for this. And one of the things that Mr. Kaufman talks about is the frustration barrier. Those first start curve where you're at the thing that you're trying to learn and you know it and you feel it and it's visceral. And that feeling is what stops people from acquiring a new skill, because you feel so bad, discourages you from pushing to the point where you're competent. I lost you guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. And I'll tell you, you're the first person I've come across recently that refers to themselves as an autodidact, right? And so autodidact just means self-taught learner. And similar to Gabe, right? I just set up my own little book of knowledge in Notion, where I basically share ideas that I capture in books and podcasts. So I have this reference point to go back to, because as I've been writing this book, one of the challenges is going back, finding quotes and all this other stuff, instead of like doing deeper reading and having like a kind of like a little database. And so I've been doing that, and it's been super helpful. And I know we just lost Gabe, y'all. We're troubleshooting. I messaged him in the chat and everything. But I do think it's really important, because in the early days when you're cash strapped, right? And especially those of you that are tuning in, you might not have a centralized ecosystem like we have here in the New York City metro area, where you can actually go to in-person things and have other veteran entrepreneurs there. the ability to go on the internet and find resources, the ability to go to bookstores and stuff, etc., get that content, and then be able to apply it in your own venture is super important. And like Gabe said, though, one of the things I'm interested in hearing his perspective on is the balance between consuming knowledge and taking action on that knowledge.
Okay, I'm back, and I think I'm steady. I had to turn off every TV in my house. Knowledge about consuming knowledge and taking action. Okay, do it. Take the action. It's the most important thing. I have when I'm asked to mentor businesses a lot. One of the things that I see is these people that want to keep learning. I have to learn everything before I can go and apply this knowledge. The first step is learning just enough to be able to self-correct when you're making mistakes in the work that you're in the learning that you're trying to make. Example, I have a friend who is learning to farm. She's learning agriculture, and she's spent so long developing her business plan and how she'll move the product and how she'll down to the soil that she's going to use. But I asked her how long does it take you to grow a plant? And she said, I don't know. I haven't grown one. And I was like, that seems like step 2. You know what I mean? Just do enough research to figure out what you're doing. And step 2 is grow a plant. Just get out there and try it, because learning from making mistakes sticks in your brain a lot. I'd say it's got hooks. Learning from a mistake that you've made personally in the work that you're trying to make, in the skill that you're trying to acquire, has longer lasting effects and is something that your brain will call back on about to make a similar mistake. And it makes it easier for you to find the mistakes that others in your field and identify those as the same.
Have you always been an autodidact? Like, have you always been a self-taught learner, or was entrepreneurship the thing that pushed you into self-learning?
I'm not getting you, Mike.
Right, I'm typing them in the chat. Damn, he keeps coming in and out. All right, as we're talking, y'all, go ahead and drop questions or thoughts in the chat. And one of the things I just talked about before was that book of knowledge. And so one of the questions I was asking Gabe was about, how do you balance between, consuming too much information? And I'm a guy like that. I'm guilty of it. I read a lot of books. I consume a lot of podcasts versus actually taking action on it. Are you coming in now, Gabe?
How do you find the difference?
Yeah, how do you balance? How do you find the balance?
Man, I'm right next to my router, and I have no clue why this is working so poorly. I'm not getting anything from you, Mike.
All good. It says this seems like getting promoted up to your level of incompetence.
Well.
Okay, where are we at? Can I hear you now?
Can you hear us?
No.
I gotta, Gabe. I think what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to bring Gabe back.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it kind of keeps going in and out. So we're gonna get him back on. We can figure out this Wi-Fi for now. But I do think this is an important topic, right? About what do you need to know? So for those of you that are in the audience, right, currently in your own ventures, I'm curious to learn about, like, what have you learned? What books and resources helped you get started?
Yeah, it looks like a couple people mentioned that they also read The First 20 Hours.
Yeah.
Have you read that one?
I have not read The First 20 Hours, but I have read Josh Kaufman's book, The Personal MBA, which I think is such a valuable asset. And I do think there's something to be said about, like, this always be learning. And, one question Jason was asking was like, do you listen audiobook or hardcover, whatever. And I think it depends, right? Whatever works best for you. That's the beauty of the internet now. We have all these different mediums that we could approach learning, right? So, let's say you're building out a financial statement or something, right? That might be something that's visual, right? So of course you go to YouTube and you can watch somebody else show you how to fill that out, right? Now, when you're commuting or something, maybe you can consume some audio or whatnot. But one of the things that I've been finding and I've been trying my best to practice is there's something about writing and sharing, like clarifying your ideas. It's one thing to just like read a book, listen to an audio book, see a video and stuff, etc. But to take that extra step to kind of sit down and write it out in your own words, right? That's like super powerful. And it takes like practice. So like even one of the things, like I'm always dropping books and what else am I dropping? Articles, podcasts, and our little bunch of newsletters and stuff, etc. But I'll tell you what I'm working on now. I'm going back and rereading like core books, right? Instead of trying to read all these different books, it's like, hey, what's the one book that I think captures this idea better than anything else? And now I'm on like really reading it multiple times, not just to kind of have it at a glance, but to really understand those ideas and share it with our community. Because obviously podcast hosts, having platforms like this, it's important to be able to pass on information. Like one book I always carry with me is Sahil Lavingia's The Minimalist Entrepreneur, which I think is one of the best entrepreneur books for like a bootstrap entrepreneur, just because of the process that he talks about to bring a venture to life. So having that book carried on, having that book in my backpack everywhere I go, and then also updating it and stuff, etc. I want to turn to a comment by Jack Khalid. He goes, in my MBA program, the welcome dinner had a guest speaker who was a former naval officer who sold his first company. Hearing him tell his story made this very doable and relatable. And this is why I think it's important for us in the community to share our stories, so that those of you out there understand that, like, hey, what you're trying to do might seem very hard, and then you find someone that's 2-3 steps ahead of you, right? Makes it possible. George Mendoza says, this is primarily about attitude. And a great quote is, jump and build your wings on the way down. Hey, I'm guilty of it. Jumped out the airplane, built the parachute on the way down, and just kind of figured it out. Another book recommendation people got was E-Myth. And then we got Mari Angelo, Startups, lots of doing things the first time, intensive application of trying things for the first time. Because at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. So once you launch and you start figuring stuff out, now you have this resource that you can go back to, whether it's a book, whatever, that has more context. I still don't think we got you, Gabe.
Oh, I'm back. Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
you good?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, it's just my phone. There's something wrong with my laptop, apparently.
It's all good.
My phone's working fine.
So one of the things we were picking up on before you left off was, as I'm going through trying to revise this book, right? And one of the things I've noticed is that, like, man, I spend a lot more time consuming content than I do actually sharing my own thoughts and ideas. And so one of the things I was asking you is, like, how do you find that balance between like consuming a lot of this information and versus like, okay, how am I turning this into action?
The work will let you know. I think that in a lot of the cases, especially when you'll reach a ceiling where you can't do anymore, and that's when you need to go and hit the books. You can't do any more without learning more. But along the way, there are little pieces of knowledge that you'll identify. You say, I don't know what I don't know. One of the best ways to do this is to imagine the worst case scenario in whatever skill you're trying to learn. I think that, say that you want to try to learn a language, and the worst case scenario would be being dropped in a remote village where everyone speaks this language and you have no way of figuring it out. And the only thing that you have in front of you are a couple books, right? The things that you would need to learn to be the most effective here are, what are the key things I need to communicate? Say I need to get directions somewhere. I need to know where I'm going. I need to know how to form a sentence, and I need to know how to communicate to not offend people. I need to know. So those are three things that have deconstructed the skill right there. The most important thing here is once you reach that ceiling, that's when it's time to go back. And finding that ceiling, there'll be steps along the way that I've identified what needs to be learned in the next step.
Yeah. One of the things I've also been following is there's a course called Knowable, right? And it was a venture-backed startup. They end up selling the medium. And one of the things they were trying to do were introduce audio courses because I'm an audio junkie, right? And one of the things that on one of their podcasts now, it was about the curiosity flywheel too. I think this is important for our listeners, right? Because I think when it comes to self-learning, you've got to be passionate about what you're learning, or like you're really in a particular pain and like you need it solved now. So like in my case, I was like, yo, the pandemic hit, my gym was closed. I need a new business model. I'm going to look at podcasting. I don't know how to produce a podcast. I'm going to read like 5 books, watch like 10 YouTube videos, and figure it out. And one of the things going back to Noble though was like the curiosity flywheel. So you get curious, then you start the research phase, right? Then you turn the research into your own thoughts. Then you share your thoughts publicly. Then you get feedback, which allows you to continue to explore your own curiosity. And I thought that'd be beneficial for our listeners to think about, so that they know like, okay, well, I hear you. You know, I don't know what I'm passionate about. You know, this all sounds good and dandy. And I just want to challenge people to start with exploring your curiosity.
I'd also say you can find these curiosities anywhere. I'm a big fan of Reddit, and Reddit has helped me tremendously in teaching myself new things. Being able to join a very specific community. I'm learning how to make synthesizers out of like computer parts, and it's a very niche community. But I have a space that I can go and say, hey, this is an idea I had. Has anybody tried anything like this? And I can get feedback and also, short, not tutorials, but short input on how I can do something specifically. And I think that that's very important to also find a community that shares that same passion.
Like book clubs or even online communities. Like you said, I'm part of a group called Mega Maker, right? Little backdoor Slack channel, indie makers in there posting stuff. And so even, we have Bunker Online as well. And that's a great community. So you see people right now already posting in the chat, giving out book recommendations. So whether in-person communities, online communities, it's a great way to bounce those ideas off of other people and get feedback. Meetups, right? In-person meetups.
Yeah, and keep the motivation up. That's the most important thing. I mean, I've been pushing this book. I swear I should have an affiliate link for for how to learn anything. But it's called The First 20 Hours. And that learning doesn't stop after 20 hours. I mean, we all know the Outliers quote, Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 hours to become a master. It only takes 20 to become competent. So the space in between those two things are vastly different, but it takes a lot of support and motivation to reach that 10,000 hours.
So one of the things I want to do now, I mean, you already gave a book recommendation. We're going to transition to, one of my favorite part of office hours. You already gave the first 20 hours. What other book recommendations do you have for our viewers that are tuning in that need to learn a skill or need to improve their learning faster?
I have one for sales learning specifically, just because this is something that I'm specifically picking up right now. And that's Navigate 2.0 by Dustin Hillis. That book it teaches a bunch of different sales styles, and it's a shortcut to learning how to sell very quickly.
Got it. My book recommendation is How to Take Smart Notes. And one of the things when your audio was going out, I was talking about, I keep a book of knowledge on Notion now, where I'll have a theme, I'll have what the author said, I'll have a reference point, and then I'll have a way to share my own thoughts. And then I also have tags to kind of tie it together. So like if I read a thought on writing, I'll connect it. I'll tag it as writing. If I read something on category design or branding, I'll tag it as that. And one of the things the book talks about is this idea of how do you make learning easier for yourself? You know, as writers, not showing up to like a blank page, but having this database, this book of knowledge with the reference points and your ideas already thought out. So essentially, they told you to reverse engineer the process of if someone was to, I don't know, let's say, you know, write a book with some thoughts you have. If they were a research assistant and they could just go in your little book of knowledge and just put stuff together on paper and then you go in and tie it up, that's the goal that you want to go for. And so the idea is just how to take smart notes. And people tell us this. It's not just enough to read it. You need to convey it back to other people, you know, because then you come with your own ideas, your own insights. And so that's just something that I'm actively working on.
And convey it back to yourself. I mean, writing is a huge way that your brain retains knowledge. Whenever I was doing comedy, I'm a pretty off the cuff guy. I'd tell a joke on stage and then record it and write it down afterwards. Because that was the only way that it would really stick in my head. And I found this to be something that works for me all the time. So I'd actually love to see your Notion. If you'd share that with the community, I bet that would be a big hit.
Yeah, I'll drop it in Bunker Online. I'll be sure to pass that along. So as we close out here, Gabe, where can people find you? How can they follow you?
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, I believe Facebook at Topo Chicano. You can follow Rex at GetRex. And you can see live comedy at the Creek and Cave, Austin, Texas, 7 days a week.
I love seeing people, you know, there's like certain brands that we always do, you know, Veteran Start coffee and beer and stuff, etc. When you, Frank, came up to me at the Ambassador Summit and was like, yeah, I got a comedy club. I was like, wait, what? So that's super dope, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for coming on the show. I know we had a little technical difficulty, but we can redeem ourselves because I'm going to get you on the Transition podcast and we're going to continue this conversation for our viewers. So I appreciate y'all being patient with us. Again, we are military veterans. We're pushing through. Technical difficulties do happen. All these people on Wi-Fi, but we appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the Transition podcast and newsletter. We got some great episodes on there. One thing that keeps coming up over and over is capital, right? And I talked to, again, Misty Fox over at IVMF, and across the board, capital keeps coming up. And so one of the things I've been working on doing lately on the show is some ecosystem mapping. So showing you all the resources we have in the community from not only Bunker Labs, but you've got the PenFed Foundation, you've got IVMF, you've got Street Shares, right? And a lot of us have gone through the gambit, but there's so many new entrepreneurs coming in the ecosystem. They don't know about all this stuff. So what I've been doing is I've been trying to map that out. And so I brought on Seda Golf from the PenFed Foundation to talk about their master's program. And if you don't know about the PenFed Foundation, you should look them up. They are leading the way of getting like the best veteran startups, getting them access to capital. So check them out. Check out that podcast to make sure you are a venture backable startup, because this is the other thing. And you know this, Gabe, everybody thinks that they're going to go raise money from VCs and angel investors, but like, is your business set up to give off a 100x return, hell, even a 10x return? People aren't investing in lifestyle businesses, and a lot of y'all have lifestyle businesses. So listen to the episode with Seda Golf, so you make sure that if you are going to position yourself as a venture backable startup, make sure you're checking all the boxes and you meet that. If you're not a venture backable startup, you're a lifestyle small business like me, I am. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So check that out. And make sure you're just engaging with us on Bunker Online. We're here to support you all. So feel free to reach out. Until next week, peace, love. And also I'd like to acknowledge our virtual event sponsors, MetLife Foundation, for not only making this show possible, but making the transition possible as well. So we're online. Reach out to us. See you all next week.